So for those that, thanks, Gabby. For those that don't know me, I'm Candace Burns. I have the pleasure of being the Director of Inclusion and Workforce Development here at Dana-Farber. I've been in this role for 16 years. Came over from Mass General to start up this office, which was a lean, mean office of two for many years. And we have grown now to an office of 6. The summer is an extremely busy time in the space of student training, and this work would not be possible without all of you. So this is our opportunity to say thank you for hosting a student this summer. We know this goes above and beyond your day-to-day activities. So we appreciate you, and we know that we could not do this work without you. For those that may not be familiar with the Office of Workforce Development, we sit in Human Resources, and we're part of the greater inclusion, diversity, and equity efforts at Dana-Farber. And so this is really about increasing access and opportunities to careers in healthcare, primarily working in historically marginalized communities and with populations that are underrepresented in medicine. Again, this work we do with internal partners like yourselves. I believe we're going to have some data points for you later on. I believe there are around 49 different departments that are participating. And then we also have our external partners. This summer program with youth is really in collaboration and in support of the City of Boston's summer jobs program for youth. So we are one of many private employers that are going to be hosting students this summer from Boston's historically marginalized communities. In addition, we partner with 2 community-based organizations, Youth Enrichment Services and Sociedad Latina, along with our 3 Boston Public Partner Schools that are just a mile from our Longwood Regional Campus, John D. O'Brien, Fenway High School, and Madison Park High School. So most likely, one of the students that you're hosting has is either a current student there, or if you have a college student, most likely they have graduated from one of those high schools. And then finally, I want to recognize the Boston Private Industry Council. I have to recall, I was at another ceremony where I failed to recognize this major partner organization that we work with in Boston. So I'm going to publicly apologize to my colleagues there. But the Boston PIC is really, they're a workforce development investment board for Boston. They really provide the intermediary between the schools and private businesses like Dana-Farber. And so they have career specialists that are working in those schools and preparing those students for internship experiences like they receive at Dana-Farber. So they are a huge partner to us. You are going to be hearing from them a little bit later in this presentation. And so I want to make sure that you know that they're a huge part of this program as well. 2 other organizations that I want to just highlight that we're partnering with this summer in our college space. That's going to be the United Negro College Fund. They are hosting students from historically Black colleges from outside of Massachusetts. So there is a cohort of 40 students staying on Northeastern's campus and interning in various healthcare institutions are in and around the Boston and surrounding area. So we have 2 students from the Ernest E. Just program that we're excited to be hosting. And then Health Careers Connection is more of a local program that again is about building the pipeline to careers in healthcare administration. And we are hosting one of their interns this summer as well. All right. So that just gives you a little background on our program, and we can go on to the next slide. Fantastic. I feel like I've given you pretty much the background on workforce development and who we are and what we do and how we do it. But just, a summary, it's about, again, increasing access, primarily working in Boston's underrepresented and historically marginalized communities. It's about increasing opportunity, equipping youth and adults. Know that we have a very rich adult program as well. But giving them the career and college readiness skills to be successful and prepared for careers in healthcare. And then it's about our work, it's about advancement, working with our own current employees that sit in frontline entry-level roles and providing them with additional tools, resources, and programming so that they're able to advance in their careers as well. Next slide. So our agenda, we are going to move very rapidly through over the next 40 minutes or so, leaving time at the end for Q&As. But we really want to give you, share a little bit more about our structure and guidelines. Our partners at the PIC are going to talk to us a little bit more about working with young adults in the work environment. We're going to talk about our work-based learning plan, which is an evaluation tool. So you can give us really constructive feedback on how the students are doing. And then, of course, give you some additional support and resources so that this summer is successful, not only for the students, but for yourselves as well. Next slide. So again, just want to provide you with some data points. Who is in the room? Who is participating? You are one of, gosh, I want to say probably over, what do we have now on the call? Gosh, over 40, oh gosh, wow, we're up to over 50 people on this call. 49 departments that are going to be hosting interns from our research, operations area, nursing and patient care, clinical operations. So, and then, one of the stats we keep now is we have 67% of our students are going to be on site, 29% partially remote, and 4% fully remote. And again, we align our students with the business that they're going to be working in and interning in this summer. So, if you're a fully remote department, then the students will in fact adapt to being fully remote. There are, as you'll hear from Rachida later on, there's going to be times when they do have to be on campus, and we will ask for accommodations in that, in those circumstances. So next slide. And a little bit more about the demographics and where our students are coming from. You can see from this slide. But what is of note to all of us, and a little bit, well, we selected the students, but still to see the numbers there, a higher percentage this year of rising sophomores. So yes, they are currently ninth graders, but they will be rising sophomores this summer. But again, they had to go through a very rigorous application and interview process. So these young people are ready and prepared for the workplace. Some having had work experience already. And then, pretty evenly distributed amongst our 10th, 11th, 12th, and college students. All right, next slide. And then in terms of demographics, this gives you, again, a picture of who we're serving. Again, our focus being on working in underrepresented in medicine populations, which the majority of our students represent, and of course, being from historically marginalized communities. 25% male, which I want to say is up from last year, 75% female. We continue to work on how to engage more young men in looking at careers within healthcare. And a lot of that really is about educating that it's not just about being, in a doctor or a nurse, the clinical side, but, you can have an interest in business, you can have an interest in, marketing, you can have an interest in IT, and still find a career in healthcare, as much as we do want to attract more men to our clinical spaces. Next slide. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Rachida to talk about this activity.
All right, thank you so much, Candace. And so I'm going to I'm going to stop share so I can see everybody's faces. And so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachida Harnyakit. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Inclusion and Workforce Development. I have been here. This will be my 11th summer. And gosh, love the work that I do here. And it's amazing because we get to see the impact that this program has had on the Boston community. So we start as early as Candace mentioned, sophomore in high school, all the way through graduate students in the program. And so we'll have 70 interns working in over 60 different areas, different departments at the Institute. And so our most recent program is actually our summer administrative internship program that we have 10 undergraduate seniors and graduate interns. And so the goal really is to build a pipeline of diverse and prepared workforce. And in the last 16 years, we've been able to hire 70 of our alumni into full-time opportunities. So really, really excited about it. Yeah. And more are graduating and contacting our office and saying, we want to come back. And so we're also working closely with our alumni to connect them with opportunities. So I wanted to pause because we want you to all kind of get into the mind frame of summer jobs. Okay. Like Candace mentioned, a third of the interns are rising sophomores. For many, it will be their first job experience. And so I want you all to think about your first job experience. Okay, where were you working at? What did you take away from the experience? And what did you learn from your supervisor at the time? And so we're gonna get into small breakout rooms, I know, and get you all talking. So do your introductions. You'll be in the breakout rooms for 5 minutes and share your first job experience as well as your takeaway from the experience. Okay. All right, we'd love to hear from 3 people. Your first job and what you took away from the experience. Or feel free to put in the chat, but would love if you can unmute and share your first work experience. We'll have to call out on somebody.
I can share, Rachida.
Thanks, Andreen.
So what I shared was many moons ago. My first job was in retail, and I think I had a bunch of supervisors at the time, so I don't really remember any takeaways from the supervisors per se, but working with customers and being able to help customers, good and bad experiences. The good definitely outweighed the bad, but it definitely helped in my want and need to work with patients and help patients, which is what I've been doing now for 20 plus years. But that's kind of one of the takeaways from my first job was how good it made me feel to help people and make them feel good.
Awesome.
And just continuing that in the career journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that you're still taking that away with you in your current position. So awesome. Somebody else want to share?
I can share.
Thanks, Shannon.
I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts as my first job. My manager was not a great fit for me, and I ended up learning a lot from that experience, learning how to sort of speak up for myself in the workplace, learning management styles that do and don't work for me, and learning ways that I would want to be a manager, ways that I thought managing others would work more effectively. So wasn't the most positive experience for me, but I learned a lot from it. So I'm grateful for it. And I've had some really great managers since then. So I've been very lucky.
So thank you. And one more person.
I can share, Rachida. My first job was bussing tables at a country club. I remember the biggest takeaway I took from that job was how nervous and scared I was to like walk up to strangers and, talk to all these people, and just how I felt so out of my depth. So I think about that, and I remember how much I gravitated toward the supervisors that were more patient and more like understanding of like how shy and nervous I was. So that's kind of my takeaway.
Thank you, Christina. That was actually my first job too. I was bussing table for a family restaurant. Thank you for sharing. So just keep that in mind. Think about your first experience as you journey into this summer program with your intern. And so I want to continue now, go kind of more in depth about the program structure and guidelines. And remember, this is recorded, so you can go back and watch it, or feel free to share it with your colleagues who will be working with the interns this summer. So our college students started this week, and they will be working a 9-week program. Our high school students, we welcome them in a couple of weeks. They will be working 30 hours a week, Monday to Friday, a 9 to 3:30 work schedule. And we mentioned earlier, this is not just about a job. Dana-Farber hires up to 700 interns, but 70 of them are part of a comprehensive program. And so 25 hours will be spent in the department, supporting the department, and 5 hours will be in professional development workshops and college readiness activities. Our high school students will attend an all-day orientation on June 26. They'll also complete, the online new hire orientation classes on HIPAA, infection control, compliance, and we will also have a student-focused orientation where we will go over program processes and expectations. We do ask that on their first day of work for high school students, all on-site and partial remote high school students, first day have to be on-site. And we ask that supervisors come and meet their interns in the Jimmy Fund Auditorium on June 27th at 9 a.m. and bring them back to the departments. Okay, so we'll put this on your calendar. So Tuesday, June 27th at 9 a.m. if you can come to the Jimmy Fund Auditorium and pick up your student and bring them back. All good? I don't know if there's any questions. Please feel free to unmute or put them in the chat, and we'll definitely address them as we go along. And then we're actually going back to an in-person celebration, since in 3 years we've had a virtual summer celebration, and this year it will be held in Dana 1620 on Tuesday, August 8th at 3 o'clock. And so again, all of these activities you will see will be in your calendars. Any questions so far? Okay, great. So this is a little snapshot of the schedule for the students, the professional development and college readiness schedule. So on Mondays, our professional development workshops have transitioned to in-person. And so you'll get an outline of a full schedule that will detail, the location, the topics. You'll also get weekly emails from me to the students, and you'll be CC'd on the topics, the presenters, what time they have to be at certain places. So everyone's in the same kind of loop of communication. On Tuesdays, students will participate in what we call Hospital Common Block. They're held on Zoom, and this is a collaboration with 5 other hospital, Longwood Medical hospitals, and they have their own student training initiative. So during COVID, we came together and built a curriculum in what we call Hospital Common Block. So around 200 students will come together all around Boston for that session. Our high school students will participate in in-person college tours this year between 1 and 3:30 on Wednesdays. They are in person. And then on Thursdays, we continue to offer lunch circles, and this is an opportunity for our college students to sit and mentor and lead small groups with their high school mentees during lunch. So this is held once a week on Thursdays between 12 and 12:45. And then in the afternoon, we meet with our college mentors and kind of debrief on their lunch circles. Any questions so far? So we do ask and would appreciate for your students who are to be on site for that Monday workshop because they're in person. If there are high school students, they are required to go to the college tour, so they should be on site on Wednesday as well. And then for the lunch circles, if they can be on site to have in-person lunch circles. However, we also can accommodate a virtual lunch circle as well on Thursdays. I know that was a lot of information. Did I miss anything, Candace or Gabby?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, and then just a small little note at the bottom. We are partnering with Harvard Medical School. This is probably our 5th year partnering with them. And they are offering simulation activities for our students. And this summer, we will be going in person to Harvard Medical School for their simulation lab. And so during July 5th to the 7th, a small group of 12 students will head out to Harvard Medical School. So your intern will go just the one day, either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, between 9 and 10:15. All right. So really quickly, and these are guidelines that we review with our interns as well. And we, really hold students to have very high standards. And we're hoping that supervisors, mentors will do the same. Attendance and punctuality is important to us. Students are expected to commit to all, for high school students, all 7 weeks, and our college students to all 9 weeks. So 100% attendance to work, to workshops, to virtual meetings, to college tours, and they have to show up on time. We let them know that to be early is to be on time is to be late, and to be late is not acceptable. And really trying to set them up for success in the future. And so if you could hold students as well to the same standards of attendance and punctuality. For personal appearance, we tell our students they do have to dress business casual. The Friday casual and jeans does not apply to them. If your department has a certain dress code, please let us know. Of course, they will follow that same dress code, but no casual Fridays and no jeans. So business casual is what is expected of them. And then as far as workplace behavior, they are following the Dana-Farber Code of Conduct and professionalism, and really expected to perform, to high standards to any Dana-Farber new staff. We do have a cell phone policy, and I know this is a lot of information, but supervisors will be provided a guidebook that details everything that we're going through. So no need to take notes, but everything will be detailed in the guidebook. And so with cell phones, students should not have their cell phones out. If they have to make an emergency call, or they should be doing that during break or during their lunchtime. And so if you do notice that they're taking their phones out often, please let us know. Okay, and we'll go over the same, again, guideline with our students. The 4th bullet point, we kept this in during COVID. We were at one time all virtual, and so the work environment and the equipment in the virtual setting, our students are expected, all of them, to have their webcams on. Okay, so they cannot turn off the cameras. They have to be in a quiet workplace, and their cameras have to be at eye level. So we want to see their full face when they're on cameras. And so we're expecting that they also do that when they're in their departments or in virtual meetings and workshops. And so please, again, let us know if you notice or have any concerns around that. Our corrective action is that we do provide a verbal warning the first time. And then the second time it happens, we sit with the student, we guide them, we sometimes pull in the supervisors, and then it does become a written warning. And then the third time it happens, the students are dismissed from the program. Any questions so far? about corrective action.
Roger,
right.
I would
Yes.
just, I would just add that, you know, it's always this space of, oh my gosh, well, you know, sometimes departments feel like, well, I'm not paying for the student, so maybe I can give some leeway, or I'm not, you know, well, they're students, maybe I can give them some leeway. We really, you know, again, we run a pretty tight ship. And so the minute anything comes up that you might not even feel comfortable addressing, please, please, please reach out to us. And we are there to support and guide in a way that we want to see the students all be successful. So, you know, we've been doing this for a lot of years, and just again, let us know early on if there are any issues, and of course, share all the successes as well. We want to hear both.
I just had a quick question on personal appearance. We're facilities operations and we do have mechanical floors they may be on. Would it be acceptable on those days that they may be in the mechanical area for them to wear jeans? Because I wouldn't want them ruining their clothing or anything like that.
That's a great question. We do, you know, we do have students who dress if they know they're going to get dirty, but then when they come to workshops
Okay.
or college tours, they have to change.
Yeah.
They have to change into the professional attire, just like every, you know, so.
Okay, I just wanted to check because I'll try to plan those days opposite those times. So
Awesome, thank you.
thank you.
That's a great question. Other questions? All right. So UKG and payroll procedures. And so like Candace mentioned, you know, the students are paid through the workforce development budget. And so therefore we also approve their hours in UKG. So they have to badge in and badge out through UKG, or, you know, sign in at a kiosk or at their desktop as close as possible to when their workday begins and ends. So 9 to 3:30. In addition, they need to complete a timesheet that looks like the one here on the right and have their signature, your signature on it. This way, so we can verify that they showed up on time and ended on time. And they are required to take a half an hour unpaid lunch break. And so this timesheet can be faxed or emailed to workforce development. Any questions about timesheets?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So, understanding that your office is approving the hours, what happens if the student leaves for one of the programs and hasn't badged out? Is that something that they would manage with your office?
So great questions. And so we will verify it through this timesheet and we'll badge out for them.
Great.
In the
Okay,
system.
thank you.
I also have a quick question.
Yes.
In the event that a student is participating in like a health education presentation, something on site in the community, is there a possibility, I know that their hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 3:30. Is there a possibility for a student to participate in any weekend functions or anything of that nature, or no?
Do you want me to jump in? Right.
Sure.
So and it's funny because you're watching it spotlighted. So is that Leslie?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, I thought so. And you know what? Let's take that offline. And I would say, you know, given the nature of your work, Leslie, I would definitely probably lean into yes. We could create some exceptions, but let's talk offline about that. Okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Sure thing.
All right. So I'm going to keep us moving here. So now I want to hand over the next 10 minutes to our colleagues, the Boston Private Industry Council, who again will talk a little bit more about some tips when working with young people. And so Lila, if you can be pinned, and Lila is our Healthcare Employer Engagement Manager. Lila?
Thank you so much, Rachita. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Candace, for such a nice intro earlier. My name is Lila Jalilian, and I'm the Healthcare Employer Engagement Manager at the Boston Private Industry Council, also known as the PIC. A few members of our team are here with us. I would like to pass it to them to quickly introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Beck Nuski, also from the Boston PIC, and I am the career specialist for Fenway High School.
Hello, I am Shane Clinton, and I am the career specialist at Madison High.
Hello, I'm Tammy Hinkston, and I'm the career specialist at the John D. O'Brien School of Math and Science.
Thank you so much, Beck, Shane, and Tammy. We can move on to the next slide. So the mission of the PIC is to strengthen Boston's communities and its workforce by connecting youth and young adults with education and employment opportunities that align with the needs of area employers. The Summer Jobs Program, which everyone is taking a part of this summer, is actually a citywide initiative led by the mayor's office. In a typical summer at the PIC, we usually have around 250 private sector companies and community-based organizations, large and small, participate in the initiative from diverse sectors across Boston. And this summer, we will have over 800 Boston Public High School students employed in diverse sectors, ranging from healthcare to biotech, real estate, architecture, financial services, anything you can name it. And every one of you is a part of this larger goal that Boston has of promoting youth jobs and advancing workforce development in the city. So at our organization, we have career specialists, and you've just met 3 of them at all of Boston Public High Schools. Our career specialists are comparable to career coaches or counselors that are in person in the schools working with students, building relationships with them throughout the school year, running workshops and all other pre-internship preparation activities, such as resume workshops and interview prep, and are also regularly communicating with students throughout the summer to see how their internship experience is going, and assisting students as supervisors as needed to facilitate with the goal setting and evaluation process. Next slide, please. A few slides prior, Candace walked us through the demographics of Dana-Farber's summer cohort, but taking a step back and looking at the larger picture of BPS students, we are looking at an extremely diverse student body. Over 3/4 of the student body identifies as Hispanic or Black, which closely mirrors the demographics of Dana-Farber's summer cohort. Close to 43% for first language is not English, with more than 66 different languages spoken at home. Students are coming from 138 different countries, and 68.9% of them are economically disadvantaged. So I'll now pass it to my colleague Beck, who will be talking through some tips on how to supervise a young adult and high school interns. Take it away, Beck.
Thanks, Lila. So just a little bit about myself, very briefly. I have been a classroom high school teacher back home in Australia. I've also done various teaching, coaching, supervising, coordinating of program roles throughout my career. So I do have about 15 or so years of experience working directly with youth. And so we thought we could give you some tips. So next slide, please. So we wanted to make it easy for you, and we thought that we could come up with this fun acronym so that you could absolutely remember how to work with students and make it easy. So we want to talk about your expectations for your students, the supervision, and then empathy and equity. Next slide, please. So expectations is our first one, and it's the big one. As Rachida was saying, we do have high expectations for our students, and you absolutely should have high expectations for your students as well. But setting really clear expectations is the key to success with our students. You can't just say, you know, like it's just very useful to have very, very clear things set out for them so that they know exactly what's expected of them and they know how to achieve success in your departments. Providing context and details can be really helpful as well. An example of that might be elaborating on why a rule is in place or why an expectation is in place. So something like closed-toed shoes, a lot of students might wear Crocs or slides outside of work and outside of school. If you explain to them that, you know, we wear closed-toed shoes because we're in a hospital environment, you don't want things spilled on your feet, they're much more likely to understand and sort of take that on. Dress code, obviously, as Rachida was saying, that will be gone over in the orientation for students, but just making sure that they're really clear on what those rules and words mean. This may be the first time your student is hearing the term business casual. So we need to make sure that they are really understanding what that is, and making sure that they are presenting themselves as clean and neat and put together at all times because they are in a professional environment. Making sure that they know who to communicate with and who their point of contact is, especially how to contact you or another point of contact if they have something come up. Do you accept text messages? Will you only accept a phone call? Should they email if it's enough in advance? Obviously, I'm sure Rashida and Candice will also have guidelines for those things and for how to contact people within the workforce development section, but you should also make sure that your student is very well aware of who to contact and for what and how to do that. And also norms and agreements is something that comes up a lot in the youth work space, but not necessarily so much in other spaces all the time. But it's just this idea of working together with your student to come up with things that are standard for the workplace. Obviously, some of those are going to be things that the student doesn't necessarily get a say in, things like turning up on time, making sure you presented professionally, making sure you communicate professionally. But other things can be discussed with you and your student to make it seem or make the student feel like they have a little bit more input into what is expected of them. Next slide, please. All right, so we have our supervision for students. I hope you don't mind the corniness factor that we have on some of these slides. But we just sort of wanted to chat a little bit about the difference between supervision and coaching. And both of them have a place in the workplace and will have a place over the summer. Supervision is more of those conversations that are a little bit more directive, that's telling your students what to do, what they should be doing. If there's something that they perhaps need a little bit of support or help with, you can talk to them about that. Coaching is a little bit more of a two-way conversation. So if you have learning situations come up, maybe if the student has made a mistake, a coaching conversation can be really helpful because you are able to have that two-way communication with the student just to make sure that they understand what it was that happened and that they know what your expectations for them are as well. An easy, really quick tip for giving positive feedback, which you can do in a sentence or two, and it makes all the difference. We like to say you should act on giving that positive feedback. So when you see a student doing something positive, you can acknowledge what they did. You can call it out, which is specifically giving words and vocabulary to the action, and toast. You want to celebrate what it was that did. So the example here of, hey, Sally, I saw the phone call. I saw how you handled that phone call with that client just now. That was really professional of you. It showed a lot of resilience because I know that that wasn't a pleasant conversation. Congratulations, good job. And it's really important to do those things, especially given the vocabulary, because some of our younger students especially may not necessarily know what things like professionalism, resilience mean in a professional setting and in this context. So it's really important to give them those words and the vocabulary so that then later, when they are asked in an interview when they're 20 years old of, you know, tell me about a time you showed resilience in the workplace, they can say, aha, I know exactly the time that you are talking about. I can give you a definite answer on that. And then also giving constructive feedback can sometimes make us feel uncomfortable as well as the students. So making sure that you can, you know, that compliment sandwich idea of giving, you know, something that they're doing well, something that they need to work on, and then another thing that they're doing well so they feel supported. Give solutions where possible, and also be really specific. You can't just say, well, you can, but you shouldn't just say, you know, you're not doing great and leave it at that. It's really, really helpful for students to have specific things that they can work on. So, you know, we need to work on your computer skills so that you are able to, you know, take notes more effectively. We can work on your patient interaction skills if they're a student who's interacting with a patient. Be as specific as you can is really helpful. All right, next slide, please. And then a little bit about empathy and equity as well. I know that all of you are wonderful, caring humans, and we all want the best for our students. That's why we're here. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to be a supervisor for your students. And we just sort of wanted to talk a little bit about that in the youth framework specifically. So we want to always try to have a strength-based perspective, just acknowledging that our young people have a lot to offer and they come into this environment not necessarily, you know, knowing nothing. They do know a lot of things. We might just need to sort of find where their strengths are and how to incorporate them into the workplace and into your departments. Try to be a little bit understanding of generational differences as well. We have all been influenced massively by COVID and by everything that happened with that whole situation. But for young people, that is a significant portion of their lives. Even though it was, 2 or 3 years and kind of still happening, for us, that may not feel like that long, but for them, it's been a significant, it's like a 10th of their life sometimes, or even, more than that. So it's just sort of helpful to be understanding that there's been these huge upheavals that have gone on that we have all been affected by, and that young people may be affected by in ways that they can't necessarily articulate yet. There's also, social media and media in general can have a huge influence. Tech and phone use. A lot of people think that because Gen Z has grown up with technology that they all know how to use it perfectly. That's not necessarily the case, especially all the times, I am of the generation that we got taught computer things in high school and in school in general. We got taught, we had typing lessons, we had computer classes. This generation isn't necessarily getting those resources because everybody kind of assumes that they've grown up with it, so therefore they know it. So they may need a little bit of support in some situations. There's also just cultural differences depending on what background your student comes from, and just recognizing that even really small differences can have a huge impact on a student and leave them feeling isolated. Some examples of that could be religion, especially around religious holidays. I don't believe there are any major religious holidays over the summer, so that may not be an issue. How to greet other people, and even eye contact. In some cultures, eye contact is considered rude. So students may not necessarily make eye contact if they're from a culture like that. So just sort of trying to be understanding of that. Language differences also obviously comes into play there. Bilingualism is a huge strength, as I'm sure we all know. We've all had a situation where we weren't able to communicate effectively with somebody because we didn't speak their language. So really embrace that and encourage those students to, use that skill and that strength to their advantage. But also some phrases that can often be used in professional settings. Things like, we're going to circle back to this, like all of the corporate speak things that we have all adapted to and we all get very, very used to. Students may not necessarily be as natural about those things. And then also valuing your student for who they are and making sure that you have a connection with your intern as much as possible and just make them feel welcome into your workplace. All right. And then I believe this is probably my last slide, but just sort of wanted to very, very quickly just say, make sure you give your intern a warm welcome. If you have any company swag, feel free, go crazy. Everybody loves free things. Give them a tour of the space, really make them feel welcome and go over those things with them, which I know that Rashida and Candice will also go over with them for the orientation, but just making sure that you are including your student and making them feel very welcome in the space.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Beck. So I know we have a few minutes. I'm gonna fast forward the slides and really give this information probably through email. It's our work-based learning plan, a tool that we will use to help set goals for the students and assess them for the summer. So that information will be emailed to all of the supervisors. It's only a 2-page tool, so really easy to complete. And then supervisors will be required to complete 2 work-based learning plan, a midway as well as the end of summer work-based learning plan. And so wanted to really wrap up in the 2 minutes. Here are some support and resources. You will be provided a supervisor guidebook. Everything will be saved in the workforce development summer supervisor teams. So be on the lookout for that invitation. And there are a lot of resources on the DFCI online, especially tips for working remotely and how to set your student up remotely for those students who are working remotely. The Institute also provides free LinkedIn Learning, which is a great way if you're noticing that your students might need an Excel training or a PowerPoint training, they actually can get a free LinkedIn Learning account through Dana-Farber and participate in those 16,000 different courses. And then of course, please reach out to our office early and often. if you have any questions or concerns, we are here to support you throughout the summer. And then just to close out, here is our staff contact. I know we didn't get to introduce our newest member. Gabby Coe is actually our support specialist, who's helping us onboard students as well as plan the college tours for the summer. All right. Stop share. I know it's 2 o'clock. Any questions? And of course, if you think of other questions, please reach out to us.
Thank you all so much for joining. And we'll stick around just in case anyone has any last minute questions.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Thank you. Bye now.